So you've got to bring people along with you so that your legacy is a broader team, a multiplier effect of like-minded process improvement practitioners. And that's got to be part of your plan.
Welcome to Process Pioneers, the show that takes a deep dive into the minds of decision makers, key influencers, and process experts who are pioneering the world of everything process.
Well, welcome to another episode of Process Pioneers. Today I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with Geoff Forsyth. Now, Geoff has an extensive history and background in process management and process improvement over the last 17 plus years. So, Geoff, I just want to thank you for sitting down and joining me here for a conversation today.
All right, thank you, Daniel, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to yourself and to a wider audience of hopefully like-minded individuals toiling away trying to improve their respective businesses.
That's right. So what I might do is that was a very brief introduction of who you are and what you've done. I'm sure the people that will be listening to this will want to, I guess, have a bit more of a grid or a framework for who you are and your background and your experiences. So maybe if you want to start off by talking to us about where that interest for process first came from, and then a brief timeline leading up to where you are today and what you're doing.
I guess, Daniel, anybody who, having spent most of my working life in manufacturing, there's very clear processes and process steps. And I guess it was just something intrinsic in me to always try and make things go better. So always looking for opportunities for production efficiency, product quality and efficiency, labour efficiency. You know, we're all trying to get our businesses more profitable, improving the exposure and quality aspects around the brand name and these types of things. So it was something that was all I always had, well before I'd ever heard anything about Lean or Six Sigma.
Right.
I can reflect back and think, well, you know, I was actually doing some of those things. We used to call it time and motion study when I was a younger person. And then that sort of morphed into a lot of what we now know as Lean. So that interest and that desire was always there. Now, I guess it's been a bit of a journey. I've spent almost 40 years working in manufacturing, food industry specifically, with a number of icon brand Australian companies, Top Taste Cakes, United Dairies, Vega Cheese, Golden Circle,
right,
Biggles, then latterly with Cadbury Schweppes or Cadbury Schweppes Asahi as it morphed into. And it was in while I was at Golden Circle that the actual specific opportunity came up to take a step back from direct production management and into this area of process or continuous improvement. So that's where my journey started back in 2003. And it was from there I moved into similar roles with Steggles and then, as I say, with Cadbury Schweppes Asahi.
Right.
Over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a couple of opportunities come up to also do some work overseas in both Jordan and most recently in Sri Lanka, in those same areas of operational management and process improvement, again in those cases in the dairy industry.
Right. Now, in those organisations that you have been working in, has there been a very, I guess, process focus there? Has it been a bit of an uphill battle to have sort of VPM methodologies adopted? Or has it been something that the business has actually approached you and they call you in, Geoff, we want to prioritize this. We want to understand our processes. We want to improve our processes. What's I guess the landscape been like you there?
Yeah, look, that's a good question, Daniel. Latterly, it's probably been the case where the business has called me in and said, you know, Geoff, we want to do this, or we think we want to do this. We don't really know what it looks like. Can you help us? But I guess largely, though, these are driven by organisational culture, going right back to the beginning, depending on the culture of the organisation, how keen they are, how big their appetite is to take on process improvement.
Right.
There's often been a bit of a me too attitude. People, see other businesses or hear stories about other businesses that have made all these wonderful gains, but those gains don't come easy.
Right.
This needs to be adapted and led from the top down. If it's got to certainly also come from the bottom up, and they need to meet somewhere. But as a strategic decision of the business, they need to say, well, we want to take on a business process improvement framework or architecture. Maybe we're not sure what that looks like. And a lot of these frameworks are organisational specific. There's not something you get off a shelf because the culture in every organisation is different. And if you are a practitioner or part of a team going in to try and lead a business improvement process, you need to understand what that culture is.
Right.
Because what I certainly found in the early years, and you still find it today, is you come up against this is the way we've always done it, Jeff.
Right.
What's the problem?
Right.
And you will come up against those overtime heroes and firefighting heroes within the business. These people may not necessarily have the stripes, so to speak, but they've got many years' experience in the business. They know how things are done and how things are run. And if you want to come in and try and change that slightly, you're threatening their position within the organisation.
Right. Right.
Hence, those individuals and that culture needs to be understood, and part of your tactical or your operational plan needs to include a change management piece in how you're going to deal with that.
Right.
Because if you don't deal with that, you'll be constantly battling and you'll be getting undermined, and you may not even be aware of it.
Yes. Okay. So would you say that a process initiative comes about more so because, or more often because, an organisation sees another organisation doing well or making some significant gains, as opposed to actually having pain points themselves and realising, BPM is the solution here? Would you say that it's more from like an outward observance rather than a feeling internal pain? Or what would you say there?
Look, I think with any of these things, it's probably a bit of a combination, Daniel. I think there's a lot more business networks happening now than there was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So there's a lot more sharing of information, certainly at level 3 in an organisation, at operational management and even at senior management. So people are hearing success stories from these types of programs. So that certainly is a driver of it. Secondly, it can be as simple as somebody new comes into the business and they have come from an organisation that does this, or they have a personal they have a personal love and desire to see this happen. Probably the third and the least most likely is that there's a burning platform or a pain point within the business.
Right.
Because again, a lot of people who are working in the business is head down, tail up, and they don't see the burning platform.
Right.
And hence, at the different levels in the organisation, I say the drive and the desire to do this needs to come from the top down. It's got to be led, and they may be seeing pain points, whether they be cost pain points or quality pain points or market share pain points. There's got to be a burning platform somewhere that makes us move to move from what we're doing and we've done forever to doing something differently. And that means change. And change is not always easy, both personally and certainly not organisationally.
Yes, yeah. Now, if there was someone listening to the interview when we do release it, and they have that sort of process-centric way of looking at things, maybe they're within an organization that doesn't have a very robust BPM framework, how would you suggest, like as you're saying, it needs to come from the top down. They obviously need to get that buy-in from senior management.
Mm-hmm.
How should that person go about pitching it to senior management? Obviously, they need to pitch it in a way that it would speak to the senior management's, I guess, goals or dreams or vision. Or talk to us a bit about how would you go about articulating that to senior management within an organization?
Well, I guess the way I would start is you'd want to go and have a meeting with the most senior level that you can within the business. Right. It's not always possible to get access to the CEOs or the managing directors, but that would be ideal. But whatever the most senior level you can get to, and then have a discussion with them about what is happening in their business. You know, what are their burning platforms? Where would they like their business to be in 5 years? What are their strategic goals? And how do they think they're going to get there at the moment? Then what is always good is if you can spend a little bit of time, it may only be a couple of days, but a week, having a look around their business and talking to people and getting some, albeit a high level understanding of their business. Because what I can tell you from quite a deal of experience, businesses are all the same. Right? They might be making different things. Some might be manufacturing businesses. Some might be transactionally based businesses, but their problems are always the same.
Right.
And largely these are things such as the end-to-end supply chain in the business is not well understood. Functional silos exist.
Right.
And it's the handover and the transfer of goods or information between these silos where typically your problems are.
Right, right.
So you need to understand what this supply chain looks like, map it out, identify where the key or the hotspots are, and focus on those.
Right.
And you can have a discussion with the leaders in the business about this is what needs to be done, and this is how I would suggest that we could go about doing this.
Mm.
And most business leaders are savvy enough to understand opportunities when they see it.
Right.
Now, how much rope they give you or how tight a leash they keep you on can vary.
Yes.
So again, you need to look for quick wins, low hanging fruit based around the process that you're going to use, and you need to be able to articulate that this is the journey we're going to use. These are some of the tools that we're going to use, such as value stream mapping. We're going to use visual workplace management. We're going to improve the communication both horizontally and vertically, and this is how we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And within a month, this is some of the things that you'll see.
Right.
And then within 3 months, this is some of the things that you'll see.
Yes.
And again, some of the things that you'll have to build and put in place will not only be your continuous improvement framework, but a lot of the reporting, particularly financial reporting, is not granular enough that you can extract cost data at the front line of the business, which is very useful to be able to do so you can show a change.
Right, right.
Hopefully an improvement, but there's been a movement in the right direction. So you may have to set up some of those reporting structures, even data acquisition. If they have historical data, it's often not accurate. There's gaps in it because whilst operators fill in log sheets that could be massive, there's gaps in it.
Yes.
Nobody's ever looked at it, so it's not necessarily even accurate.
Yes, right.
So you may have to start from scratch in terms of what data do we need to collect? Where can I get it? Who's got it? How do I collect it?
Yes.
These are important building blocks for you to set up your business improvement framework.
Right.
And again, you can explain all this to the CEOs and the MDs. They'll understand it.
Yeah.
And you create or you build your roadmap or your framework that's easily understood and put some milestones in. Within a month, we'll see this. Within 3 months, we may see this, and so on.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's really important to mention that the stakeholders or the senior management, they're going to be looking for that return on investment. They're going to be looking, they'll want to know what are the wins that we should be expecting, and how long should we be waiting? Is this something, should we expect to see some improvement or some wins, some value after 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? They want to know if we're going to invest into this BPM sort of initiative, what should we be expecting? Because we don't want to put $10 in and get nothing out of it. If we put $10 in, what is going to be our return?
Yeah, look, that's certainly right. Businesses are always looking for return on investment, and this is probably the biggest high-level challenge that you will have as an individual or as part of a team. Every business today seems to have a continuous improvement manager. Well, one person acting alone is extremely difficult. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. But this is what businesses seem to want to do. So understanding, firstly, where do we go to find those improvement opportunities is the first thing. Secondly, how do we quantify them is the second thing. And then how do we backfill and guarantee that as soon as your back's turned, they're not eroded again because people slip back? Right, so these are three of the key legs. So again, one of the early steps is to understand, take some information from the business leaders on where they think their hotspots are, because it makes good sense to at least go and have a look at that and focus on that.
Yes, yeah.
But sometimes people get the cause and effect thing wrong. They're looking at an effect and saying, I've got too much inventory in my warehouse, fix it. Okay, but when you map the supply chain, what's the cause of that? You've got to understand what the causal factors are of too much inventory in my warehouse.
Yes, right.
It could be an easy one and an obvious one, and one that's always true is forecasting, but it could also come back to length of production runs. It could come back to availability of raw materials. So you need to understand the process to say, well, I'm going to look at the length of my production runs. We're going to do shorter runs more frequently. That will then give me the desired effect I want, which is a reduction in the inventory levels or days cover in my warehouse.
Right, right.
So there's always that process mapping, process understanding piece that's required. Then there's a quantification of it. And as I said before, quantifying these things is not always as easy as it should be, because a lot of businesses don't do that well. Their financial systems operate at a higher level.
Right.
What is the value of one pallet space? For instance, now businesses value that differently. To me, I've often been able to look at it and say, well, if we're in outside storage, because we've got that much inventory, then it's very easy to quantify the value of one pallet space because we're paying someone for it.
Yes, right.
So every pallet that doesn't go there, we can value that as a return on the investment, and that's valid to do that. So again, looking at that, and there's no hard and fast rule, but you need to operate within the business accounting system. And again, depending on what they're using, if they're using SAP or they're using QAD or they're using something they built up themselves, they're not always as granular as they should be.
Right, right.
And they won't have that specific information of cost of goods. So you may have to work with them to build that information, but you need to do it in tandem with the finance people or the cost accountants, because if you just come up with the numbers yourself, you'll get shot down.
Yeah, right, right. Now, you mentioned before, we talked about before getting buy-in from that senior management level, but you also talked about, obviously, when change is introduced into a business, it can cause some or a lot of disruption. And I guess sometimes it's hard to, bring a team or an organization along that journey. But talk to us a bit about what does it look like to get buy-in from the general employee, from the ones that are actually conducting the processes and what they've been doing. What, as you mentioned at the beginning there, we've always done it this way, Jeff. Why do we need to change? Now all of a sudden you're coming in telling them, well, this process will improve things, it'll optimize things, it'll make for some more efficiencies, so we need to do it this way. How do you get that buy-in from the general employee when it is disrupting the way they've done things?
This is always the fun part. This is where the rubber meets the road. What I've done in the past with some success is I would recommend that you start small. Pick one production line or one section, one area of the factory, whether it be, don't necessarily pick the worst, but there may be a compelling reason, or the management may insist, go and work over there. That's just totally horrible.
Right.
But don't pick the best either. Set yourself up for success, if possible.
Yeah.
And then get that group of people, and this includes their customers and suppliers, both internal and external. So let's assume we're picking a particular process line, whether it be a process line that's making widgets or a process line that is processing car accident claims. Doesn't matter. Get the group of people directly involved in it, get their customers and their suppliers. So outside of the actual box, who are they working with? Because if you're going to go and play around with any particular process, you are going to impact on their upstream and their downstream stakeholders. You might like to even consider bringing in external stakeholders, external suppliers or external customers. And you get these people together and you run an initiation session, a communication session.
Yes.
Generally, I find most people don't mind change per se.
Okay.
They just need to be given a good reason as to why we should do it.
Right.
So your job, if you're leading this program or this initiation, is to give them the reason. And you can outline these sort of things about what we want to do, why we want to do it, what we want you to do.
Yes.
What we would like you to do. And always it's really about asking them, just let's give it a go.
Yeah.
We're not tearing down walls and ripping out equipment at this stage. Let's give it a go. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Right.
And my experience is that the vast majority of people, okay, well, we'll give it a go, Jeff. No problem. You'll always get one or two that will sit on the fence because, what does he or she know? I've been here for 30 years. That's fine. No worries, Daniel. Look, just give it a go. But, they're the people you ultimately need to win over. Right. Or if you can't win them over, then they have to be, it's a different discussion that you have with those sort of people.
Mm-hmm.
But in the main, I would always have a clear and open and frank communication session. Let them ask their questions, and they'll generally be the same sort of questions. And then we give it a go. You set it up, but be ready if you're going to set up visual workplace management, have your measures set up, make sure the targets are realistic, make sure you can actually measure what you want to start measuring, whether it be, speed through your process, whether it be pack weights, pack volumes, make sure people are actually set up to measure it and record it, because a lot don't take that for granted. If you're going to set up a communication session, a daily meeting, let's see how we did yesterday. Did we hit our targets? Did we not? And just the mere fact that something is getting measured, it will generally get done and you will see a lift.
Right.
Okay. The backfilling then is around the training and the procedures to ensure that, when your back is turned, we don't slip back to the old ways because it was just convenient and comfortable.
Right.
Generally, real change can take up to 3 months with humans to actually get them to totally adopt the new way without any referencing or slipping back to the old way of doing things.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And again, that needs to be made clear to the senior management that this won't happen overnight.
Right.
We'll see a lift, and wherever we're resourcing it and people are there supervising and managing it, it will happen.
Yeah.
It's when we move on to the next area that we just need to be comfortable that the hard-won gains don't fall away.
Yes, right. Now, in conducting these discovery sessions where you are trying to bring the right people into the room, what are some of the, I'd imagine that when getting information out of people's heads where it's been stored for so long, maybe there are some things that maybe come natural to that person. And so I'd imagine there might be a few obstacles or challenges that arise when I guess trying to document processes down, trying to understand, okay, what is actually happening in our organization. Talk to us a little bit about some of those hurdles or those obstacles that an organization might face when, I guess, maybe they've picked their process or their process area that they want to work on. What are some of the obstacles and challenges that they may face in, I guess, getting this information out of the minds of the stakeholders or the key people and documenting that down in whatever form that looks like?
Well, if I could answer that in two parts. The first one is about understanding what information you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a group, a team of people from any particular business that work in one area, and you ask them what are the key drivers or the key issues in what they do, they'll know. There'll always be issues around quality, about speed, about cost, these sorts of things. They'll know that because they've probably been hit over the head for years that these are the things we've got to manage. And then if you ask them, okay, so what are the certain things that we should be measuring? If this was your business, what would you want to be keeping a close eye on? What would you want to be measuring? And that they will know. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you that it'll be, pack weights or pack volumes or line efficiency or these types of things. They will know that. So, you're recording all this sort of stuff on a whiteboard. So you're getting buy-in from them. You're getting them to tell you what they think is important. So then, this is important. Yeah, sure, okay. Can we measure it? Yeah, we measure it now. Is it easy to measure? Yeah, no problem at all, Jeff. Okay, so Daniel, can you measure it for us each day? Yeah, okay, no problem. So you gradually get buy-in like that.
Right.
So you establish this framework of the key drivers of that. I use the term mini business, and they're usually, as I say, around quality, cost, speed, delivery. You may have some people or motivation issues in there around training and that sort of thing.
Right.
So identifying what it is we need to get, how we get it, who can get it is important. The next thing, of course, is then this thing about, well, actually, how can we get this? Mm-hmm. And some of these measures may be new, so they haven't been done before. So you may have to set up some system to do that. And let me say right here that he who has the most measures doesn't win.
Right.
All right. Don't build in complexity. 2 or 3 is enough to start with, particularly if they are important and if they're already measuring them.
Right.
What we're going to do different is we're going to make them visual. We're going to get up there each day and we're going to talk about them with the team at a daily team meeting for 10 minutes. So they understand even more that it's important. And then that discussion morphs into, okay, so did we hit our target? Yes, no. If not, why not? And what have we done about it, or what are we doing about it?
Right.
And hence you need to bring in customers and suppliers, because often they may be part of the solution. Right. The upstream or downstream process, or we had to wait on this, or we couldn't hand that over there, or something broke down, or we had to wait for, you look at the 7 wastes. That's where you'll pick up the issues that are preventing a team from performing.
Right.
And as I say, then the second challenge is to get these measures set up accurately. Whatever sort of data collection system you have, whether it's an automated SCADA type system or it's log sheets and so on, make sure the data is accurate and accessible.
Yes.
And then, of course, that's got to be transformed into a format that people can easily understand, that becomes the subject of your daily meeting at the front line for the mini business.
Yep.
So you drive, improve performance one step, one day at a time, and you do that by understanding what are the issues that are preventing them from performing.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's really, getting that understanding is what you need to focus on and harness, and you do that working with the frontline teams. And most frontline people, they want to perform. They want to go home feeling they've done a good job today.
Yeah.
They don't come into work thinking, oh, how can I destroy my day and give everybody, make everybody unhappy?
Yeah.
That isn't how they think. They want to come in, they want to do their job well, they want to produce good product that supports the brand name, and they want to go home in one piece.
Yes.
Our job is to help them and support them to do that better each day by removing the barriers to success and to progress.
Right. Now, for those organizations that they have, I guess, embarked on a process documentation exercise, and they've got everything down, I guess for some, without that, I guess, continuous management or continuous improvement, for some organizations that exercise has turned into 5 years of not looking at what they had done, not looking at what was documented, because the employees just fall back into the habit of just doing what they know in their head. And so some organizations look at process documentation and management as a bit of a waste. Like, well, we didn't get any value from that. We did it once, but it's just sitting there collecting dust. Like, where's the value from it? Talk to us a bit about, I guess, the value in that continuous management, that continuous improvement, not just documenting your processes, but looking at them on a day-to-day basis, and then also on where are the areas of opportunity for like radical innovation, where we can bring a project team in together and take one critical process that might have taken 49 days and let's cut it down to 12 days or something like that. So talk to us a bit about the value of that ongoing, that continuous management and improvement of process.
Yeah, there's a fair bit in that question, Daniel. This whole process improvement piece is a journey. So as you go along on this journey, you need to be recruiting, picking up more followers. By definition, you can't lead if nobody's following.
Right.
So for any particular work team or area, or even a business as a whole, if you want to look at it that way, as you're coming along, you need to have people who totally engage in this. So a line supervisor, you've got to have a line supervisor who will continue to do this when the process improvement manager or team moves on to the next area of the business.
Right. That's
essential, right? Because if you say, well, who's responsible for process improvement in a business? It is everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you can't appoint a process improvement manager and say, you are responsible for process improvement. You are doomed to failure.
Right.
Part of the role there is to develop other people who are like-minded. They might never been to university. They might not have even finished high school. That doesn't matter. It's how they approach things mentally. People who work in broken processes will be the most frustrated people in a business.
Right.
Because they have to deal with this broken process every single day they go to work. And they go home and they want to kick the dog, or they want to, hit the wall because they're really frustrated. So they'll be happy to work with you and learn from you about how they can improve their business. And they'll be the ones coming up with the ideas. They may not know how to fix it, and they may not have had the support in the previously to fix it.
Right.
So it might need some money being spent here, or something in something different, a different material, different way we do things. So you've got to bring people along with you so that your legacy is a broader team, a multiplier effect of like-minded process improvement practitioners.
Right.
And that's got to be part of your plan. Right? In terms of the documentation piece, the documentation is important. Yes, there's businesses approach it in different ways. And you're right, having folders and folders of SOPs or work instructions sitting in the supervisor's office collecting dust are a waste of time. They don't add value doing that. You've got to have them, because if you're going to embark on these systematic things such as ISO or BRC, you need to have documentation and work instructions, because that's what they ordered against.
Right.
So you need to have those so that all the process is clearly documented, including links to other processes and to log sheets and these types of things. At the point of use, you're better off having simple one-point lessons, the work instruction kind of thing, checklists, these things that help operators and individuals each day to go through what they need to do. Part of the discipline that needs to be instilled, and discipline is a key platform of process improvement, is that people need to use it. Because my experience tells me things go wrong because people who thought they know everything about it didn't follow the startup checklist.
Right.
Or things like that. So that documentation does need to exist, but businesses also need to be wary and should avoid this big bang theory. Let's not ride into town trumpeting that we're going to go lean, because you are setting yourself up to fail.
Right.
In my experience and from what I've seen. Start small, right? Set yourself up for success. Bring other people from the business in and see, hey, come and see what Daniel and his team are doing.
Right.
And then you'll get a lot of, well, when can we start? We want to do that too. And grow it like almost organically. You've got to push it a bit, but it will grow organically, rather than the business trumpeting, we're going lean, we're going to bring Daniel and Jeff in, we're going to pay them big salaries, and they're going to be our process improvement leaders. Yeah, I would never support that sort of approach.
Right.
So bring it in. You don't even have to avoid labels like we're going to go lean, or we're going to go lean Six Sigma, or we're going to do Six Sigma, or we're going to do TPM, or anything else. Avoid the label. We're going to bring in start a process improvement process. And the very first meeting or announcement from that, ideally face-to-face, should come from the MD.
Right.
That we're going to start this process improvement process. And some of the things it's going to look at, some of the things we're going to do, some things you might see, might introduce, the Daniels or the Jeffs at that time, and they're here to help us do this. Welcome them to the organisation, blah, blah, blah. And then, maybe at that point you can talk about, if you've got something clear in your mind, how that might look like. We're going to start with this particular section. It would be better if that particular section didn't find that out then.
Right.
Because they're going to, oh, wow, okay. So it is about this organic growth. The documentation is important. You will need it because they serve as reference materials, but that sort of documentation too often sits in an office, and you can't run a business from an office, certainly not a manufacturing business.
Right.
You've got to run the business from where the real work takes place, and that's out on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's where supervisors and managers need to be. And increasingly, I find, as generations change from, boomers to X and Y, that thinking changes a bit. I see now there's a greater thinking and therefore action that says, well, I'm not going out on the floor. I've got all the screens and information in front of me.
Right.
Yes, but you're not talking with people. You're not communicating with people.
Right.
This is about people. It's not about tools.
Yes.
You can't lead if people don't follow.
Yeah.
the tools, whether they be statistical tools or lean tools, only help people and the business understand exactly where you are. And when you've done something, you can prove has something changed.
Right.
But it's still about understanding and working with people. You know, Daniel's off his game today. What's up, mate? What's going on? You might have problems at home or some other issue that I'm not going to know about if I'm sitting in an office.
Right.
Because my job is to get the best out of you and all of your team.
Right.
And if I do that well, then you look good, the area looks good, I look good, the business is going well.
Yes, yeah.
And it really, there's no way of getting around that. It's just about change and it's about people. And you've got to come up with a way within the organisational culture to get people to come along with you and support you.
Yes, yeah. That's great. Now, obviously, Geoff, we can only fit so much in our 30-minute interview, or we've been able to push it out to about 40 minutes here, and I've been I'm glad that we've been able to do so, because I can tell that you've got a lot of experience and knowledge to be able to share, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people in the community that will glean a lot of value from your 17 plus years of doing this and working with different organizations. So even though we do have to end it here, I think that you certainly will have sparked conversation. You will have sparked new ideas in different people's minds. So I just want to thank you for sitting with me and joining and sharing your knowledge with me today.
My pleasure, Daniel. Anytime. Happy to help, and good luck with the rest of your interviews, and good luck to all your avid listeners.